This book investigates the nature of Islamic education systems in Indonesia and Malaysia, as well as the various ways used by these countries to manage these systems. Three key differences help clarify the distinctiveness of Islamic education in Indonesia and Malaysia. First, Indonesia has a larger number of Islamic schools compared to Malaysia, even considering population size. Second, 95% of Islamic schools in Indonesia are privately run, whereas most in Malaysia are controlled by the Ministry of Education or state Islamic councils. Third, Malaysia has a more cohesive institutional approach to education, while Indonesia's Islamic education system is more diverse and decentralized. This book argues that post-colonial Malaysia has centralized control over Islamic education more effectively, promoting a stricter orthodoxy than Indonesia. So if you're wondering why this is happening, the answer lies in three factors. The first factor is the ideological composition of the state institutions in charge of Islamic education. Second, patterns of social Islamization that have prompted different responses from the states. And the final factor that influenced centre-periphery relations is the central government's control over resources. Okay, now let's break down each of these factors. Number one, the ideological structure of state institutions. In Malaysia, institutions overseeing Islamic education, primarily the Ministry of Education and JAKIM, or Jabatan Kemajuan Islam Malaysia, have a federalized institutional mindset as terms that local educational agents of the states believe the only way to improve the overall conditions of Islamic education locally is through the heavy involvement of the federal government and influence, creating ideological uniformity. In Indonesia, the Ministry of Religious Affairs or MORA and the Ministry of Education and Culture or MOEC share control, leading to ideological differences and reduced central authority, particularly following the 1999 decentralization law. Number two, social Islamization patterns. Malaysia's Islamic resurgence in the late 1970s, driven by its semi-democratic electoral system, strengthened Islam's role in governance. While in Indonesia, under authoritarian rule, Islamic influence remained less politically integrated. Number three, the central government's control over resources. Malaysia's resources enabled a centralized approach to Islamic education, while Indonesia's budget constraints and decentralization laws led to a more fragmented system.